Hey, nice to see you again. Thanks for stopping by. I was actually wanting to show you a few things. I just started a new book, I think last night, by in my mind, one of the best American authors. I think he passed away last year, but Cormac McCarthy. I'm reading All the Pretty Horses, which was turned into a film. Many of his books have been turned into films, but I've read maybe 3 or 4 other books of his. Let me see. He's most famous for The Road. Also, one movie on with Viggo Mortensen. More famous for No Country for Old Men. That's like one of the best movies ever. So I read both of those books, and then See the Child. That's kind of an unknown one. I think there's a movie on that. And then probably his grand work, really probably the top piece of American literature would be Blood Meridian. And this one so far has a similar style to that, where it's this, when you read it, you feel alone. He has this hypnotic way to his prose, stream of consciousness. And it does put you, I always think it kind of has this mood of when you're on a road trip and it's 2 or 3 a.m. and you're stuck at a random truck stop and you're tired but free and it's dark and it feels almost against the law to talk. That's really the mood I get, and the way he describes particularly the American West, the isolation of it, is really beautiful. And there was a few passages, even though I just started the book, I'm only maybe 20 pages in, there were a few passages that were so nice I kept rereading them. And so I'm glad you stopped by, because I think it'll be nice for me to read these for you. And then I wanted to play you a little song on the piano that, in my mind, matches the mood that this prose gives me. So here's a few passages. I think it just will be about a page or so. And then I wanted to read one other quick little description. But yeah, very beginning of the book here. So hope you enjoy it. Let's see. In the evening, he saddled his horse and rode out west from the house. The wind was much abated, and it was very cold, and the sun set blood red and elliptic under the wreaths of blood red cloud before him. He rode where he would always choose to ride, out where the western fork of the old Comanche Road, coming down out of the Kiowa country to the north, passed through the westernmost section of the ranch, and you could see the faint trace of it bearing south over the low prairie that lay between the north and middle forks of the Concho River. At the hour he'd always choose, when the shadows were long and the ancient road was shaped before him in the rose and canted light like a dream of the past, where the painted ponies and the riders of that lost nation came down out of the north with their faces chalked and their long hair plaited, and each armed for war, which was their life, and the women and children and women with children at their breasts, all of them pledged in blood and redeemable in blood only. When the wind was in the north, you could hear them, the horses and the breath of the horses and the horses' hooves that were shod in rawhide, and the rattle of lances and the constant drag of the travoy poles in the sand, like the passing of some enormous serpent, and the young boys naked on wild horses, jaunty as circus riders, and hazing wild horses before them, and the dogs trotting with their tongues a-loll, and foot slaves following half naked and sorely burdened, and above all the low chant of the traveling song, which the riders sang as they rode, nation and ghost of nation, passing in a soft chorale across the mineral waste, to darkness bearing lost to all history and all remembrance, like a grail, the sum of their secular and transitory and violent lives. He rode with the sun coppering his face and the red wind blowing out of the west. He turned south along the old war trail, and he rode out to the crest of a low rise, and dismounted and dropped the reins, and walked out and stood like a man come to the end of something. There was an old horse skull in the brush, and he squatted and picked it up and turned it in his hands, frail and brittle, bleached paper white. He squatted in the long light, holding it, The comic book teeth loose in their sockets, the joints in the cranium like a ragged welding of the bone plates, the muted run of sand in the brain box when he turned it. What he loved in horses was what he loved in men, the blood and the heat of the blood that ran them. All his reverence and all his fondness and all the leanings of his life were for the ardent-hearted, and they would always be so and never be otherwise. He rode back in the dark. The horse quickened its step. The last of the day's light fanned slowly upon the plain behind him, and withdrew again down the edges of the world in a cooling bluish shadow and dusk and chill and a few last chitterings of birds sequestered in the dark and wiry brush. He crossed the old trace again, and he must turn the pony up onto the plain and homeward, but the warriors would ride on in that darkness they'd become, rattling past with their Stone Age tools of war, in default of all substance, and singing softly in blood, and longing south across the plains to Mexico. Really just beautiful stuff, and you can see how he gets in these hypnotic, rhythmic phrases, these run-on sentences, and how he will constantly reuse sort of a word again and again. Blood red. Then, again, I mean, how many times has he said the word blood at the end here, what he loved in men, the blood and the heat of the blood that ran through them, even on the page before. It's always funny, there's so many nice words here. Now I can't, here we go. The children at their breasts, and all of them pledged in blood and redeemable in blood only. The sun sat blood red and elliptic under the wreaths of blood red cloud. He does that a lot in all his novels, particularly in The Road. He does that, and over time it really sets upon you this feeling of total apocalyptic grayness and wasteland. There's one other really amazing description of just the night. I'm just shocked by it. Here we go. This is just a short one. Let's see. The room smelled of old cigar smoke. He leaned and turned off the little brass lamp and sat in the dark. Through the front window he could see the starlit prairie falling away to the north, the black crosses of the old telegraph poles yoked across the constellations passing east to west. Just that idea, the black crosses of the old telegraph poles yoked across the constellations passing east to west. Just such a beautiful description of telephone poles. But it really gets in my mind, those lonesome road trip moments when you're just staring out the car window and you just see these telegraph poles, and you're like, where do these poles go to? We're going to someone's home, going to some town, but isolated like that. It just feels like that. The black crosses and how we describe it, just going into the void. I wanted to read that to you because I've been very struck by it. I haven't read Cormac McCarthy for, 2 years or so. Very solemn books, very beautiful prose, but you need to be attentive to it. It's not a book where you can sort of lose your mind. You'll lose a lot of the poetry of the prose. But in lieu of that, I wanted to hopefully perform a little song for you by the equally hypnotic composer Erik Satie, French composer. I hope you enjoy this too, and thanks for sticking around with that. I'll grab the phone so I can set you up by the piano. Here we go. Let's see, make sure I get a nice view for you. There we go. Hope you don't get too much of my body in this. But I want to make sure you see all the notes I'm playing, huh? So, I hope this works out. Can you see my head? But this will be a Gnossienne of Satie's, particularly the fourth Gnossienne, which he wrote the 22nd of January, 1891. He's most famous for the Gymnopédie, which even if you aren't a listener to classical music, I'm sure you've heard these opening bars. which, beautiful piece. I love that piece, but it certainly overshadows almost all of his other works, and he wrote a lot for the solo piano. With the set of Gnossiennes, he wrote 6 of them, but funny enough, I didn't even discover the uh, last half till maybe a year or two ago, which is to my shame. The first 3 are very popular and always make the cut in any sort of 100 best of songs or the best works of Satie. I even have a collected works of Satie, and they only have the first half of the Gnossienne, and it's supposed to be the complete piano works, but somehow the 4 through 6 gets neglected, which is a shame because 4 particularly is really beautiful, and in my mind, the best out of the whole set. But I wanted to pair this with the Cormac McCarthy because it does have a sense of desolation, of isolation, of a bit of hypnosis if you allow yourself, as Satie repeats the phrases a lot. The chords wander, the structure isn't as structured in that sense. There's not a direct harmonic relationship between them. He uses some exotic scales, modes, but very beautiful piece, and particularly beautiful at night, which currently, as I'm looking at this, is 10:03 p.m. And I appreciate you and hope you enjoy this song, and then maybe we can chat next time. So here's Erik Satie's Gnossienne number 4. Yeah, hope you enjoyed that, and I hope you could see some of those descriptive words I mentioned prior to it, and how you can see how, at least in my mind, it links to those beautiful passages from All the Pretty Horses. Yeah, and thanks for coming by. I hope you enjoyed this, and hope you get a good night's sleep. Hope you find sleep, as sleep never seems to find me. Have a good night. See you.